Hey everybody, Mike Shea here. I'm along with Ryan Mendoza. We are
Hey
the
guys.
creators of Miskatonic High. We are here to talk about issue number 28. Man, I can't believe we're up to issue 28,
Yeah, crazy.
right? Um, this is our heist movie comic, um, which we came up with. We had some story ideas for this, and we didn't know quite what sort of hook to give it, and we wanted to come up with a good sort of issue hook, something that would draw you in, make for an interesting single issue story, and came up with the idea of doing it as a heist. So we'll get into that in just a minute. Um, let's go ahead and talk about the cover first because it's a bit of a different sort of cover, but it's one I like a lot. I like when we do something a little bit different. Um, do you want to talk about how you came up with this cover concept and how you turned it into the cover?
Yeah, we had several concepts for the cover, but I think most of them had the blueprint
Hmm.
as a main element for it, um, because it's a big part of the story. I
Hmm.
think the people who've read it have already know how important it is in the story, and so
Hmm.
I thought that it was important that it was part of the cover.
Hmm.
Also, there were some elements in the story that was also important, like the tokens that they
Hmm.
used. That was funny when I was reading it in the script,
Hmm.
and to see the representation, the things that it represented in real life
Hmm.
was also pretty interesting. So yeah, I had to find ways to put that in the cover as well.
Hmm.
But I also researched some posters for famous heist movies,
Hmm.
and I noticed that most of them were like silhouettes and like big images of the main characters. But part of a heist story is to do the heist without being discovered by the authorities, right? So uh, it was it was important to keep the identities of the perpetrators secret, but we all know from the silhouette who these guys are.
Right.
And I think uh, I'd like to talk about another aspect of comics is that character design.
Hmm.
That's why you have to make each character distinctive. Some people found Matt's hair a bit weird in the beginning,
Hmm.
but if you see it in a silhouette, you'll know exactly who he is, because that kind of hair is very normal for comic books. And just to put that little thing on top of his head
Hmm.
really makes it distinguishable as a character.
Hmm.
Same with Anton. I was considering making him a bit more clean shaven, but
Hmm.
I needed to find a more unique look for him. And at that time, when I was designing the characters, I was really into Formula One, and one of the more famous drivers at that time was Lewis Hamilton. And at that time, he was experimenting with his hairstyle. I said, "Wow, that kind of looked interesting," and so I adapted that for Anton's hairstyle.
Hmm.
And for Sarah, well, that's pretty distinct already, but it's the ears that really that really kind of that's her thing, you
Hmm.
know.
Yep.
And of course, we have this new character that we see on the lower side of the image, where the inset of the key. So I was thinking of how could I make the image a little bit more interesting,
Hmm.
and I said I couldn't put like more images at the back in the background. like other movie posters, like James Bond posters, wherein action scenes were going on in the background, because I already determined that the blueprint would be the background of the image. So I said, the key looks a little flat there. So I thought maybe I could put an image in the inner part of the key. And so I decided to put that there. It's still a bit vague that you don't really know what's going on, but
Right.
if you look at the story, you'll quickly realize what it implies.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think the cover came out great, and I really like how it looked.
Yeah, I do too. As you were talking about, I really like the blueprint sort of element that you use not just on the cover but also throughout the issue, as we'll see when we get there, and the little tokens and everything. And but you're right, the little addition at the bottom, it adds that level of energy that I think we always sort of need, that bit of danger that Matt is pulling on this girl and trying to run away, and it's like it adds that mystery element to it and that danger element that's always nice. So I really like it. I definitely was thinking what you were saying about how the characters are so identifiable now that we don't even need to see their faces and we know exactly who they are.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
and it applies to the other three too that we don't see. Who aren't.
Yeah,
Yeah,
even Alex, you just see her ponytails and you already know,
right,
even if it's even if it's just a silhouette.
right. And Simon with his little curly hair, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah, they're all very identifiable. But I also like it because it connotes a bit of like danger, like maybe we don't know as much about the characters as we think we do. It's a nice
Yeah,
mystery sort of cover to it.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Um, so we go ahead and we have Jenny telling us the previously this time. She's very excited about it because it means that she's one of the main characters now. Um, she tells us about what's come before, about who everybody is, all of that. And then we go ahead and we start the issue. And we start the issue with Alex's dad. We have this underlying thread going out through the season about this mystery or this investigation by the feds, including Alex's dad, who's working the IRS angle of it. Um, he is putting together the information from the tax information that he got to be able to figure out what's sort of going on with the mystery. Somebody killed Matt's mother. Somebody killed Matt's grandfather he believes, in order to get the family fortune. And the family fortune is designed to go to the male heir. It's in the will that it has to go to a male heir. And so he's starting to put together all of these clues, and they're starting to point towards Matt. That Matt is this male heir. Matt's the one who's taken over the family business. Maybe Matt killed his mother and his grandfather. Readers know what actually happened, but you can see why someone who doesn't know would suspect him. So he's sort of our point person into that investigation. Meanwhile, we also see Alex come in looking for her phone and realizing that her dad, for the first time, didn't take something apart. Like when we've seen Alex's dad before, he tends to take anything mechanical apart. And we're
yeah.
sort of
And
go
we
ahead.
also see that most of the appliances are intact right
Yeah,
now.
right. And we've sort of gotten the idea, and he sort of hints at it in his sort of voiceover captions here, that things fell apart for him when Alex's mom died. That she died in a car crash in a car that he had been working on, and that after that things just didn't make a whole lot of sense. That things didn't add up. Things didn't fit together the way they used to. Um, but something about being on this investigation has changed things for him, and we'll find out more as we go along. But things clearly are not the same as they used to be. Um, Jenny and her dad show up to give Alex a ride to Matt's house because they're going to go do some schoolwork. Um, and Alex's dad barely even registers because he's so in involved in the investigation that he's doing that he barely even notices. But he does know enough to say to Jenny's dad, who's the FBI agent, that he thinks he has something to show him. So we know that Alex's dad is suspicious of Matt. We know that he's sharing his suspicions with the FBI, and that the FBI are going to start looking towards Alex. I'm sorry, start looking towards Matt to find out what's going on. We then cut to Matt's house, where a bunch of the kids have come together. So we have Anton, we have Simon, we have Sarah, we have Alex, and we have Jenny all together. And Ren together to go and work on the history project that we've established. So the history project that they've decided is to do a report about an ancient culture, and they have decided to do the ancient culture of Atlantis. Um, so they have gone to Matt's house because Matt's family collected heirlooms and all sorts of weird old things about Atlantis, and so they go and check it out. Um, so we have this cool room where we have a lot of pieces from Atlantean culture that we've seen and we haven't seen. So how did you come up for what was going to appear in this Atlantis room?
Yeah, well, based on the previous issues that we had, we know that some of the Atlantean cities had these big murals, so it was important to put that there. Also, the tablets, which are kind of synonymous to ancient history.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really know like how how much Atlantis had evolved during that time. I mean, it's still viewed as like mythological in real life, but it seems that in our story, it's kind of has more traction
Mm-hmm.
historically, and it seems like Matt's family has been investing a lot with gathering proof and evidence about this culture. So we can see that they even have statues and relics of that bygone era.
Mm-hmm.
And at the middle panel, we also see the urn
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
that we saw from the previous issue, where something went wrong during an art class.
Yep.
Let's just say. And of course, we also have some other weird artifacts there that might or might not be useful in the future, but we'll see. Just window dressing for the for the setting.
Mm-hmm. Well, I like it. You were talking a bit, and I don't know if you want to talk about it here, how your sort of vision of what the Atlanteans look like has sort of evolved. Um, because we saw them way back in, I want to say, issue 11, when
Hmm.
Anton went back in time and ended up inside one of the Atlantean bodies, and so we saw it, and it's kind of cool
Yeah,
how,
yeah.
yeah,
I,
it looked then versus how you're sort of designing it now.
Yeah, yeah, but at that time, I think the Atlanteans,
Hmm.
or at least the current inhabitants of that place,
Hmm.
used to be the Yitians,
Hmm.
are were at their full power,
Hmm.
and the descriptions given by Lovecraft were very vague, and if you look at the references, it all varies very differently. And if you really base it on the description, you'd
Hmm.
really come up with this really weird looking creature.
Hmm.
And at that time, when I was designing the look for the Yitians, I
Hmm.
thought they were at their technological height.
Hmm.
So it wasn't impossible for them to have technological attachment to their bodies.
Hmm.
So I was thinking that their original bodies look a certain way and that they just modify it
Hmm.
biomechanically in different ways throughout history.
Hmm.
And at that time, that was basically the height of what they look like. But when we revisited their look, or we will revisit their look in a future issue,
Hmm.
it's during the Hyborian times,
Right.
wherein Atlantis had already sank. I wanted them to have a different look at that time
Hmm.
that's more appropriate to a, let's just say, Conan type
Hmm.
of adventure.
Right.
So I wanted them to look more monstrous, or not really alien, but something like could exist during that time uh, of adventure.
Hmm.
So some of the attachments are missing. Maybe the armor looks different, or the they look more garish than they look during the height of their civilization.
Hmm.
It could also be evolution, mutation. So yeah, but the base look is still there. You can
Hmm.
still recognize them. The the distinctiveness of their appearance is still very recognizable. But also with the statues, I mean, even today, if we recreate um, statues of historical figures, even during the Renaissance, those were like the best representation of that person.
Right.
That muscular, chiseled look. I mean, the people who were modeled after those statues probably didn't look like that. And if the statues in the ancient era were made by ancient humans,
Hmm.
the tools would have been very crude, and whatever materials they used would have been very hard to chisel out.
Hmm.
And so the statues would be very raw looking,
Hmm.
and it wouldn't really represent what the Yitians looked like before, but just what they think they see
Right.
is what they can carve out. I mean, even if you look at the cave paintings, it doesn't really look like what they see. It's
Right.
just that that's the that's the skill that they had at that time.
Right. It's
they
like.
they wanted they wanted to represent the gods, or the these technological beings that they see. They wanted it represented for future generations to see.
Right. It's like Egyptian hieroglyphics. It's not designed to look exactly picture perfect. It's designed to fit the art style that they have. It's their interpretation of it.
Yeah, even if you look at Indiana Jones movies, you'll
Hmm.
see the statues there. Even um, Hellboy, the statues would look more monstrous, or um, raw than what we're used to with Renaissance sculptures.
Right. Right. No, I agree. Um, okay. So we also have some of the stylus and uh, um, pieces of metal that we saw Anton writing on back in that issue
Yeah,
as
yeah.
well. So yeah, I mean we got little bits of everything in there. Um, so Matt's dad comes and fetches um, Simon and Ren and Anton to come with him up to the attic. And so they go up to the attic, and what they find is Matt's up there, and so is Herbert West's reanimation equipment that got left behind. And it turns out that the Elder Thing, who we know is actually Daniel Arkham, wants his body back, and they want them to make him a body and then transfer his soul or his persona into that body. Since they were able to do it with Anton, they can do it for him. Um, they Matt produces a bit of his DNA from a hair, and says that if they can do it, he can make it worth their while. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so they got to figure out how to do that. They weren't able to do that um, with uh, God, uh, with Trish's mom. Um,
Yeah,
so it'll be whether they'll be able to do it for Daniel Arkham is anybody's guess.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For any readers who've been paying attention during scenes in Matt's house,
Mm-hmm.
you'll notice that there are lots of basque reliefs and paintings of Daniel Arkham scattered across the house. Now, why would you display that much of, of that person if you're not lurking around the halls? I
Right,
mean, it's still not known why, but we're starting to see some hints to it.
right. Yeah, it's every time we go into Matt's house, it's just so creepy in there. It's just the attic is creepy. Their Atlantean room is creepy. Just everything about that house is creepy. Okay, so back
I'd like I'd love to live there.
really? Oh man, not me. Thank you. No.
Only for a night.
Yeah, it'd be one of those things. Would you sleep in this house for this night for $1,000?
It just looks like a nice vacation home, just for maybe 3 days tops.
Right. Yeah, I think that's the start of a horror movie. No thanks.
And you'll probably never see me again.
Yep, never seen it. So back in the Atlantis room, they are starting to work on their group project. So they're answering questions about what ancient civilization are you visiting. Alex is writing the answers, so they're going to visit Atlantis. They're asking what year it is. It's about 10,000 BC. Um, what are some examples of your civilization's art? They got that covered, plenty of art. Um, and this is when Anton realizes that these are in fact the creatures that he went back in time and he saw, and so we see a bit of a flashback of when he was there. Ren is suddenly very interested in knowing about Anton's trip back there. um isn't it interesting because she was there at the end of that adventure back in issue 11, and Anton told them all about it, so why would she want to know again? um Anton talks a little bit about the machine in time that took him back into his ancestor's body, which makes Ren realize that he's a descendant of the Atlanteans, which also makes her very interested. Um, Anton tells us a little bit about of his experience back there and how, at the very end of it, these reptilians showed up and started attacking the Atlanteans, and they sort of pushed Anton back in time to the future. Um, Ren is very interested to know exactly where the Atlanteans went, um, but Anton doesn't know. So um, Alex suggests, as part of the history project, that they might want to talk about the Stygian Tower, which legend says that anyone wishing to find Atlantis would find all the answers within and without. Um, we then see a bit of the Stygian Tower, and as we know, the real Ren, along with Collis and Loon, back there and about to enter. Sleep well, for tomorrow we discover its secrets. let's talk a bit about the Stygian Tower. We don't have to talk too much because it's going to obviously be our next issue. We're going to talk about it a lot more. But in terms of the design of the tower, how did you come up with the design of it? Because it's very striking. It's very cool. The sort of I especially like the top where it's got the energy coming out in swirls of green clouds.
Yeah, uh, it's very easy to come up with a tower design. I mean, it's very common in fantasy adventures. So I really had to come up with something quite different
Hmm.
from what we usually see in fantasy.
Hmm.
I wanted it to have this really sinister look to it,
Hmm.
and to have uh, since this represented the technological height of the Atlanteans,
Hmm.
I wanted it to be both natural looking.
Hmm.
It's like carved out from a mountain or something,
Yeah.
and at the same time also employ technology that we've never seen before or perhaps never will.
Hmm.
And so that's what the spires and the little hooks and spikes represents. Like it draws power from inside, from the air. We
Hmm.
don't really know, but I wanted to show that it's something that we've never seen or probably never will see in our lifetime. And to Colossus and Loon, it's probably the most terrifying building they've ever seen. And
Yeah.
for Ren, it's probably something that's really unbelievable
Hmm.
to see that something like this exists, because she grew up in modern times, so she's
Yeah.
seen like skyscrapers, flying planes, pocket computers
Right.
with cameras and social media. But to see something like this would even shock someone who comes from the modern age. So
Hmm.
that was part of the design language that I wanted to employ with the Stygian Tower. I didn't want it to look like a snake mountain from He-Man or something that comes out from Lord of the Rings. It had to have that sense of being part of the Hyborian era, but also something a little bit more technological without it being technological, if you get my meaning.
Being like high tech sci-fi.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I didn't want it to have like wires and straight edge buildings or something like that. So it's more like curves and spikes like that.
Hmm. Well, what I really like, one of the things that I really like about it is when we were talking about the idea of bringing Ren back to this time and sort of working the connection between Lovecraft and Howard, with Lovecraft and Conan and sort of pulling it all together. And the Stygian Tower kind of is like a nice middle ground for us, because we've seen sort of the Yithians and the Atlanteans and sort of that level of technology. But now we get to see what happens after that in chronological times as things fall apart and people start rising. And we get to this Hyborian age. And so it's got to look like it fits in with like Conan or something like that. But it also has
Mhm,
to have those roots in what we've seen before from the Atlanteans, from the Yithians. And I love
mhm.
the way that it sort of straddles those two worlds and really connects it in the ways that we were talking about wanting to do with this storyline.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it came out great. Um, so as when we get back to modern time and it's clear that the modern Ren is a little obsessed with the Atlanteans. Um, Sarah whispers to Alex, isn't it a little weird how interested Ren is in this stuff? Um, so we will find out more
Mm,
about that in time. Um,
yeah.
by the way, I love the way you have the two Rens there. The one Ren looking at the actual tower and the other Ren
Hmm.
at the model of the tower. That's awesome.
And we also have Sarah and Alex on
Mhm.
either side, and we have Chorus and Loon on.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm a sucker for those mirror images, and that really works for me.
I think it's rubbing off of.
Yeah, probably. Sorry. Um, Matt's dad comes and gets him and says that Mr. O'Callahan is in your office. We know Mr. O'Callahan as the druid guy who runs the bank, amongst other things. Mr. O'Callahan is really excited that Matt has taken over the Williams estate, that he now has access to all of the Arkham Society's treasures, as well as all the writings and the papers and all of that stuff, which, of course, being a druid, he wants to get rid of. He hates anything that has writing on it. But he says, here are these artifacts were crafted by the hands of our gods themselves. So he's clearly a druid full and full. He wants to go ahead and take all of the artifacts out of the mansion, sort of make sure they're in safekeeping in druid hands. But Matt, of course, is in this perilous situation where he can't have the Arkham Society realize that he's not Daniel Arkham himself, um, occupying this body. And so he's like, no, we have to keep things status quo. Otherwise, old Whately and the others are going to come and get me. Um, Speaking of which, Matt's dad comes and tells him that old Wheatley is there. So Matt has to go talk to him. Um, and now we have Matt meeting with old Wheatley and his daughter Lavinia. Um, for people who have read the Dunwich Horror, they know these characters that we're incorporating in here. Do you want to talk a little bit about how you designed Lavinia, based upon what we knew about her from that story versus what we're sort of doing with her in our story?
Yeah, well, just like the other characters in Lovecraft's story, he has these certain specific descriptions
Mhm.
for the characters. But of course, if you look at the references for the characters, it varies
Yeah,
uh, depending on which artist depicted the character.
right.
Also, Lavinia is very popular with artists,
Mhm.
and you'll see it commonplace in anime characters.
Oh, really?
And yeah, yeah, I noticed that when I was looking up references for her.
Huh. Okay.
Lilith, Lilith and Lavinia are
Those are the two.
some of the more popular characters that anime artists adapt.
Huh. Okay.
So that was quite interesting
Hmm.
for science purposes. Um, so I said it's either I really stick close to Lovecraft's description,
Hmm.
or I model her so that she fits in with the Miskatonic High world,
Yeah.
which up to this point has been one of the things that I've been trying to do with established characters like this is she has to have the same traits as the basic traits of the characters, but
Hmm.
she also has to look like she fits in the Miskatonic High world.
Yeah.
So she has the albino skin,
Hmm.
and she has this rugged rural look in
Hmm.
her.
Hmm.
But I also wanted her to look like she would fit in with the Miskatonic High
Right.
look. Meaning, if she was to appear in an Archie's comic, she would have to look a certain way.
Right.
So it's the same with our series. If I was to adapt a certain character from a popular franchise, they would have to look a certain way so
Right.
that they would fit in with Miskatonic High.
Right.
Because after what is this, 28
Hmm.
issues, I think we've established a look for the world and for the characters that inhabit the Miskatonic High world, that it's very distinct at this point,
Right.
that it would look very well, it would look kind of strange if something out of the ordinary look of the characters would suddenly appear in the comic. So it has to have a standard look to them,
Right.
but also make sure that their unique traits are still intact.
Right. Well, and Lavinia in the story, I mean, that's a tough character. I mean, she in the real story, she's older, she's
Yeah,
much more beaten down, and uh, probably not mentally stable. It's like, it's a really hard character when you really think about who Lavinia is, and so
yeah, and
we
we also had an idea
hmm
for her character, and so we had to make her a bit younger,
hmm
and her, yeah, it just had to fit basically what we needed for the story.
right. Right. So and we had talked about this, that we wanted her to be younger, sort of about the same age as Matt, that they both sort of were in these families and kind of, I hate to say victims of the family, but kind of, at the bottom rung of the family, and sort of things sort of, you know, the parents were taking advantage and doing things and trying to coalesce power and wealth and whatever. And, the kids were just
Yeah,
tools for that. Yeah.
yeah. Well, going back to the design, I think the one thing that I really struggled with was her hairstyle.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
It's one of the reasons why I have her in a hat, because I had not finalized her look at this point, but also it kind of doubled for a fact that it kind of completed her look with that hat,
Hmm.
at least for the beginning part of the story.
Hmm.
But initially, when I sketched out and penciled this issue,
Hmm.
her hair looked very different from what we see right here,
Hmm.
and it evolved slowly as I was drawing her,
Hmm.
and it there was a point wherein, aha, I got it. This is her hair, and I had to go back and redo all of the hairstyle from the very beginning, and so it still looks a bit weird at this point, because uh, I had to like redo what I had already established
Hmm.
before. But I think I'm pretty happy with how she looked in the final.
Yeah.
And I think in future issues it's much more established.
Yeah. Well, I like the hat here because it really sort of nails home that idea that she's sort of from a farmer family, that
Mhm.
so she's got the straw hat. It really works for to establish really quick where she comes from, which I like a lot.
Yeah, and it's also a kind of a cheeky callback to One Piece. So
There we go.
sue me.
So it turns out that Old Whately and Mary, Matt's mom, had created an arranged marriage between Lavinia and Matt, which Matt is only just now finding out about. Um, so Old Whately has brought her there and is going to leave her there until they're ready to get married. Um, as he's talking about it, he's talking about, oh yes, we'll be in a nice big happy family. Um, and the elder thing, Daniel Arkham, is using his telepathy to realize that something's gone wrong. That Old Whately knows more than he's letting on, and it turns out that he knows exactly who Matt is. You know that Matt is who he is and not who he's pretending to be, and that the moment that he can get his son free, that he is going to kill Matt, going to kill Matt's dad, going to do something to the Williams estate, and it's just going to be terrible. And he gets a flash, an image of from Old Whately's mind, which is this weird wedding image of Matt in a tuxedo and his dad, bloody and on the ground, and the mansion behind them in flames. Um, can we talk about this image for a minute? Because this is amazing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I know that in the script, I told you a little bit that it was going to be this wedding from hell. How did you sort of come up with all of this?
Yeah, I think initially when I read it, I said, "Whoa, this is going to be tough." But the hell part was the easy one. Just put the just put fire
Yeah.
on the whole mansions. Of course, I mean easy as in it's still tough.
Yes.
I mean, putting fire on anything is will always be tough, but I think the end result will always be look great.
Hmm.
And as a background, I think it encapsulates what Matt's life is right now.
Hmm.
It's practically burning right in front of him. I mean, it just gets worse and worse from him, from one issue to another,
Hmm.
or one season to another.
Hmm.
And with Waitley's appearance, it's just going to go to another level.
Right.
And I think it's something that we've never really explored in the series before. We we've never really grasped what sort of trouble the kids are.
Right.
It always it always seems to appear as if the kids always shrug off what happens to them from issue to issue, but when you do that, things get compounded,
Yeah.
things gets worse, and without knowing what's causing this and who's behind this, it just makes it even worse.
Right.
And so this image kind of really captures that. It's like it's like things going to hell, like you said in the script, and a photographer happens to capture it. It's like one of those unbelievable photos
Yeah.
from from the last decade or something like that. So I mean, you can see Lavinia in the background looking pretty,
Hmm.
a perfect little wife, and then the father behind just cackling
Hmm.
with the horror that's happening, and then Matt's dad dying
Hmm.
right in front of him while this big brute is basically strangling him to death.
Hmm.
I mean, there's just no way out that's positive.
Right.
It's just there's no way out of it. It's
Mm-mm.
just going to hell, like you said.
Right.
And in the background, there's this flash of bright light that we don't even understand.
Right. I,
And
I,
just to add insult to the wound, we saw all these pretty flowers in the foreground.
I was just going to mention that.
And
Yeah.
we have this hint of this what could have happened if things did go to hell.
Hmm. Oh
I
man.
mean, the people, the guests are probably where we are seeing this image, and we're looking at it in an unbelievable way. Like
Mhm.
all of this is happening right in front of us, and we don't know what to do about it.
Right. And this is old Whately's vision. So I mean, this is something he wants to happen. Like
Mhm.
that's pretty
He's
bad.
probably planning
Yeah, he's probably thinking about
to
it
do.
right now. Yep.
Mhm.
Um. So old Whately leaves, and he's leaving Lavinia there. Um, she is uh enamored with Matt. It's tough to tell, but Matt, of course, knowing that old Whately knows what he knows, has to sort of figure out what to do next to try and save himself. With Matt, Matt's story this season is all about just trying to stay one step ahead of the people who probably want to kill him. Um, and it's
Yeah, I
not
think Lavinia is just glad to be out of her father's house. I
right,
mean, the prospect of marrying into Matt's family is probably much more appealing than sleeping with the cows in the barn.
right, yeah, and and having her dad there. I mean, yeah, I mean, for Lavinia, this is probably the best possible future for her. Like, she's really excited.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And she probably doesn't even know anything much more than what she grew up in.
Yeah.
And so anything new is probably exciting for her.
Right. Right. And we talk about it a little bit later that she went to school with some of them for a little
Mhm.
while, but then under mysterious circumstances, maybe got pregnant and stopped going to school there. Which we'll talk about in a bit. Um, She is so Matt asks his dad to go ahead and set her up in the guest room. She's like, "Oh yeah, don't worry about me. You can put me outside. I'll be with the cows." And Christian's like, "No, we have a perfectly nice guest room. Why don't you come with me?" Um, and she's like, "Well, once we get married, maybe we'll get some cows." Um, so she
That was a funny line.
and I like Christian's response. Oh, how wonderful! Yes. Um, Meanwhile, Matt runs off to talk with the Elder Thing to try and figure out what to do. Um, the Elder Thing knows that the only thing keeping old Whately at bay is that Mary had hidden Wilbur, old Whately's grandkid, his boy, um, and that he probably knows where Wilbur is now, and that the only thing that Matt can do is get Wilbur out and hide him someplace else to keep that leverage over Old Whately so Old Whately doesn't kill Matt. Um, Matt is like, well, I'll just call up the asylum and, have him moved. And the elder thing says, no, the doctor who's in charge of it is not that easy to manipulate. You're gonna have to go and break in. But fortunately, we have blueprints for the asylum in the house because everything is in this house. It's a house of many things. Um, so Matt puts together a team and puts together a plan to do the heist. Um, it's sort of funny to me that it took us like 10 pages in before the heist actually begins. Um, but that's sort of how our comic goes. It's either at the beginning of the story of an issue or at the end of an issue where we sort of have to move some of the plot lines along from issue to issue before we can get into the meat of just this issue. Um, so here we are. We are at the planning out of the heist. Um, when we started talking about doing a heist story, I sort of went back and looked at how heist movies work. And usually there's always this one scene where they sort of plan out exactly what how the heist is going to work. And almost always they plan out how the heist is going to work, and then it works for a certain point, and then at some point it all goes to hell. And so that was kind of the thinking here. Well, okay, we'll go ahead and we'll plan out the heist, and at some point things are going to go to hell. So he talks about how they need to break into this high security insane asylum, get down to the basement, get to one of the very end cells, which is where Wilbur Whately is being kept. Um, as we know, because we saw it back in issue 17 when Alex broke into the insane asylum and talked to sort of the scarred man to try and find the little girl who had been kidnapped. Um, Matt has assembled his crack team of Anton, Sarah, and Lavinia. As
Very elite.
very elite. As Anton points out, we were the only people left in the house. Um, and this is Sarah's introduction to Lavinia to find out that she's Matt's fiance, which is interesting.
I love Sarah's look.
Right? I do too. She's like, oh, and I like how Lavinia's like, oh, he's just my fiance. She's completely oblivious to any of this. Um, and,
Mhm.
and then we go ahead with the first part of our plan. So again, going back to having seen some heist movies, one of the things that they often do is, as they're talking about the plan, you actually see the plan in action. And I thought that would be a fun way to do it and bring in, as you mentioned, the blueprint and some of these tokens to represent the characters and sort of move them around,
Yeah.
through his plan. And it worked out really well with having them at the top of the page, each page, so you knew what was going on with that page. So I really like the page designs of the next several.
Can I tell a story about a little
Yeah, absolutely.
trivia? When I was reading the script and you wrote Matchbox,
Hmm.
I thought you meant a literal matchbox.
Well, like yeah.
Yeah.
Do you guys not
And
have
that's what initially drew until I realized, oh, you meant the toys. I had lots of them when I was a kid that I just I just felt embarrassed not even that didn't even register in my brain
Mhm.
instantly. It would have been funny if you had seen that.
An actual Matchbox art? Well, I
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
probably would have made it work. But
I
um,
don't know, but yeah, it was fortunate that I kind of realized it. Yeah, he met a matchbox toy.
right, Matchbox. Um, I really like how you drew the little Matchbox truck, and it matches old Whately's truck. So like the color looks alike. So it really sort of connects the idea of these toys to real life.
Hmm.
And one of the sort of themes to this issue is the idea of these little playthings, children's playthings versus what it's like in reality. That reality is so much worse than these
Hmm.
toys and really represent. Um, so so the first part of the plan is to go to old Whately's house and steal his truck. So Anton, Matt, and Lavinia head over there. They Matt and Anton get in the truck, and they both realize that neither one of them knows how to hotwire the car. Um, at that time, old Whately shows up and sees Lavinia and's like, "Why are you here?" And she's like, "Oh, Daddy, I just couldn't stay at Matt's." And Matt and Anton are like, "Oh crap, we are so dead. Without Daisy, without my calf." Um, so old Whately's like, fine, take your damn cow, just be at the mansion. That's the whole point, is you're my person there at the mansion to sort of keep an eye on Matt and what's going on. So she gets the keys to the truck and they go off. let's talk a bit about Old Whately's house because this is the first time we've seen it. Um, I've been to many dairy cow farms in New England, and this is spot on. This is a nice drawing.
Really?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, this looks really
Google works wonders.
good.
No, I mean, references are very common with comic books,
Mhm.
especially when during the time when there was still no internet, they had like rims and rims of reference books.
Yep.
And I think the trick is just choosing the right reference for
Mhm.
the drawing that you need. And the one that I chose was this very rustic one,
Mhm.
wherein um, it looks really old and run down. And I always have to remind myself that snow still had to exist during this time. So I try to put in as much snow as I can because I realized that when I was drawing snow in the previous issues, I didn't realize that it would pile up so much
Yeah,
during some uh, uh, days.
yeah,
As in, it would pile up really high,
yeah,
and I thought it would just cover the ground. I didn't realize that it would like really literally eat up the whole place.
yeah.
And so even if it was already melting or something like that, it would still be tons and tons of snow. And I think the snow coverage
Mhm.
added to the feeling of the farm. It
Yeah,
made it look more somber and creepy,
yeah.
creepier, if it makes sense. And just seeing the cows walking around looking for fresh grass
Mhm.
was kind of funny for me. So yeah, I think the image really works. I mean, we saw Lavinia talking about cows, like, what the heck is she talking about? And
Yeah,
then we see it in this panel, and oh, okay, now I get it.
right. Well, so for me, like reading Lovecraft and reading about Dunwich and all these places in New England, like those are places that I've been and I've seen. And a lot of the farms there, because so New England land is very rocky, so you don't do a lot of crops, you don't grow a lot of corn and stuff. What you do is you have
Mhm.
a lot of dairy farms because cows can just go and eat the grass and whatnot. So you see a lot of dairy farms. So for me, reading Lovecraft, whenever he talks about like an old farm or anything, I always think of it as like a dairy farm. Like that's just what I
Mhm.
go to. So like for me, this made perfect sense. And I like the contrast between this old rundown farm and the Williams estate, the big,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
mansion. And part of the things that we've established is that old Whately is really sort of jealous that the Williams sort of took all the good land, took all the good artifacts and things like that, and sort of left old Whately out in the sticks to sort of
yeah,
work on his cows and go hunting and sort of all of that. So there's a lot of hatred towards the Williams, and it comes through with this really well. Like that's one of the reasons I really like it is it's a really nice contrast.
yeah, yeah. At the end of the day, it's always about land, isn't it?
Hmm. And money, yep, exactly. One last thing on the snow, just to compliment you one more time. Um, with snow, it piles up, and what happens a lot is you have where you need it to not be. So, like in the driveway, you have to push it out, and it ends up in big piles. So, like these piles at the end of the driveway, that looks spot on because they needed to push that snow
Hmm.
somewhere. And so, yeah, it's like when you think about snow, just think about okay, yeah, there's big piles, but you got to be able to get
Yeah,
by. So you shove it, and it big piles up someplace. Yeah.
yeah. I just imagine that if someone like me who's never seen snow would go to the US and experience snow for the first time, I'd probably love it for the first couple of days, and then I'd probably hate it for the rest of the time I'm spending there because Just looking at this image already makes me feel miserable.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I drew it.
See, to me, it doesn't make me feel miserable. It makes me think of home, so I like it.
You're used to it.
Yeah, I'm used to it. But yeah, no, like New England winters are really, really long, really gray, and the snow turns brown from like dirt and stuff. And so
Yeah.
it's not pretty, it's terrible. And yeah, after a
Yeah,
couple,
that I think that's the thing that's really hard to capture is dirty snow.
yeah, it works here though. Like it feels dirty, so like
Mhm.
it works. But yeah, so you get sick of it. You get sick of winter really quick up there.
Mhm.
So they drive off. We see a bit of Sarah and Anton in Whately's truck driving along, and we see them following the car that I guess it's Mary's car that Matt is driving with Lavinia in it.
Mhm.
Sarah and Anton sort of fill us in a bit about Lavinia's past, probably from the rumors back at school about she's that girl who was in special education, but she dropped out, and it's kind of suggested that she became pregnant. Um, we then cut to Matt and Lavinia talking, and Matt is sort of explaining and making sure that she understands that they're getting Wilbur out, but that he can't go home to old Whately, that old Whately wants him dead. And Lavinia is fine with that. She has a difficult relationship with her father, but she loves Wilbur. Like Wilbur is, her boy, and um, we get a bit of Lavinia's past here that and Matt is sort of talking to her as well about the ways that both of their parents have been trying to use them. Um, Matt used to try to escape from his parents by going and playing hockey. And Lavinia used to hide from her parents by going out in the barn and being with the cows. That was the place where she could escape to and be protected. Um, and the cows are deal with people pushing them around in cow sort of way. Cows are very stoic animals. They sort of put up with what are done to them as long as they can eat and they can drink. They're pretty contented to just do those things. And Lavinia sort of admires that, because she's sort of been pushed around and abused. And, you know, she wants to sort of be like a cow, to sort of just take it and not let it bother her. And we find out that um, her dad put something inside of her that put Wilbur in her belly. Um, we don't completely know what that means. If you've read Lovecraft, you probably have an idea what that means. But Matt, of course, is coming to this fresh, and it's kind of horrifying to him. Um, he doesn't really have time to deal with this because they just arrive at the Lennox Asylum, the insane asylum where Wilbur is being kept. Um, this is the second time we've seen the Lennox Asylum because we saw it again in issue 17 where Alex broke in. Um, how did it change for you the look of it from that time to this time as we sort of revisit it?
Not much. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I still referred to that old image that we
Mm-hmm.
had. I think the only thing we added was the wall
Mm-hmm.
and the gate. I think initially it was supposed to be chicken wires or something. I don't really
Oh,
recall, but it was a lot more open at that time. But I think we needed the walls and the gate for the escape scene later on to be more dynamic. So I think that was the only change that I did. But for the most part, it remained very similar to what I initially had in that issue 17, I
mm-hmm.
think.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I just like this one panel where there's no dialogue at all.
Yeah, I tried to have panels without dialogue wherever I can. I'm not very good about it,
I
but
think in the script initially it had dialogue,
it may.
and I think it's much better that you left it out. I
Yeah,
think it's much more impactful that way.
yeah,
Just seeing the expression in their faces.
right.
Yeah,
I think their expressions say so much more than any dialogue.
yeah, yeah. I think that works really well.
Right, because Matt is horrified staring at this. But if you look at Lavinia, she's not upset. You know,
Yeah,
she doesn't feel horrified by it. This is just her life.
yeah.
You
If
know?
you had added dialogue, I think it would have a very different feel to it.
Yeah. I don't know if you feel like this, but I feel like sometimes when readers read comics, they read the dialogue and sometimes they don't look at the art as much as they would if there was no dialogue.
Yeah.
So if you take out the dialogue, they have to really look at the picture and see what's going on there.
Yeah, I knew somebody wherein they read the comic book twice.
Hmm.
First, without reading the dialogue, just looking at the images,
Hmm.
because I think he's dyslexic or something.
Okay.
And then he would read it a second time because it would take him a lot longer to just absorb the dialogue.
Hmm.
But at least by skimming through the issue, just looking at the images, he has a bit more idea of what's going on, so he could concentrate on the words later on when he reads it for a second time.
Yeah. When I was a kid and I didn't really read very well, I would look at a comic just at the pictures and I would sort of make up the story that I thought was going on between the pictures. And just read it that way. And as I got older and could understand, my reading.
Were you one of those comic book readers wherein you go to the very last page?
I have done that from time to time.
I think when I was younger, I would do that.
Yeah.
I just didn't care about spoilers at that time.
Sometimes I have this is less me, and I see it more in my kids. I My kids get anxious and worried about the characters, and
Hmm.
they want to check out the end just to make sure that everybody's still there.
Yeah, because the covers were so clickbaity at that time. Like I remember this one issue of Transformers wherein Bumblebee gets blown up, and I said, "Oh no, not Bumblebee! Come on, man!"
Right, but also
So
we
I'd
weren't
look at the very last page and ah,
right, but we weren't
forget
smart
it.
enough
Yeah.
to know that they were clickbaity. You know, when you're young and you
No,
see
no, that word didn't exist at that time.
right, you really thought that Bumblebee was going to die in that issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard now with audiences because they're so like cynical about it. You know,
Yeah, they're conscious about it.
yeah, yeah, it's
They
kind of
think that they think that every cover image is trying to trick them
yeah,
or something. Every article headline is trying to outsmart them or something like that. So yeah, it's very hard to like keep the attention of the readers to what's actually on the page.
yeah. I think so. Um, okay, so we get to the second page of the heist, um, where now Matt has set up the top hat to go ahead and start entering the asylum, and he says, once we're on the grounds, I'll get into the asylum, and Anton, you get the truck into the position. Anton, of course, thinks it's not fair because he wants to be the top hat, and so Matt is trying to get him to focus. In the actual heist, Matt pulls up.
What, just a question.
Mhm.
What token did you usually use in Monopoly?
The racehorse. Did you have the racehorse?
I don't think we had that.
Hmm.
I would always choose the race car though,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Not the dog.
sometimes.
Sometimes the dog. My brother and I would fight, and so one of us would get the racehorse, and the other one would get either the race car or the dog.
Yeah,
Yeah. My brother and I fought over everything. So if one person wanted something, the other person automatically wanted it too.
yeah.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was more fun that way.
That's one way to think about it. So Matt meets Dr. Farragut and insists on seeing Wilbur Wheatley immediately. Um, Matt says it's urgent Arkham Society business, and so Farragut says, "Okay, come on." Um, as
Did you
Farragut,
ever mention who this doctor is, by the way?
no, we just mentioned that he's Dr. Farragut, and I figured eagle-eyed readers and with good memories will remember Josh Farragut, who was the
Hmm.
student body president before Simon, way back in the first season.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Did you design Dr. Farragut to look like his son
a
since we
bit.
since we had seen him?
Yeah, but I wanted him to look a lot older,
Hmm.
and I think his son is probably like in the younger batch of kids.
Yeah.
So yeah, I purposely made him look older.
Hmm. But he had to have the blonde hair.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course.
It's just like Draco Malfoy and his
Yeah.
dad.
It's funny because at one point, I think in issue 5, he says something about, wait till my dad finds out about this. And I was reading a
Oh,
review.
yeah.
I was reading a review of that issue, and somebody was like, "Man, he is just like Draco Malfoy."
I don't recall that, but that's great.
Yeah, I thought so. Um, so Dr. Farragut is leading Matt down and telling him a bit about Wilbur Wheatley and how he has the physique of the largest person that he's ever come across, but claims to only be a 4-year-old kid. Um, and his psychosis is extensive. That he thinks something called an outer god um, is one of his parents. Um, Dr. Farragut takes Matt to him. Wilbur, of course, has nothing nice to say about any of them, calling them maggots. Um,
Yeah, the M word.
you maggots. Um, and Matt says that old Whately has made threats about breaking Wilbur out.
Hmm.
He had just come to make sure that security measures were in place, and then we see that this is that we see the alarm going off. Um, we go ahead and see the next part of the heist plan, which is Lavinia and Sarah come in, and of course, Anton wants to be the wheelbarrow now. Did you have the wheelbarrow in your Monopoly set? I feel like different Monopoly sets had different pieces.
Yeah, yeah. I think there was one.
Yeah. Nobody
Yeah,
wanted to be the wheelbarrow. The wheelbarrow's terrible.
I think it was cool.
Did you? Oh man, I
Yeah,
would.
because we didn't have those things that much.
You didn't have wheelbarrows?
Not that much, but because we had what we call caritons,
Oh,
which had like yeah, it was similar to wheelbarrows, but it's more uh like jury rig from old wood and
yeah,
stuff
yeah.
like that, and it would carry like uh water
Mhm.
receptacles and whatever, so it was kind of bigger.
Right. So every family that I knew had a wheelbarrow growing up, and
Mhm.
if you had to do weeding or if you had to do raking,
Yeah, we didn't have those.
oh yeah, you had
We
everything
didn't.
went in the wheelbarrow, and you had to push the wheelbarrow to like the pile or whatever. And so it's like
Yeah,
the wheelbarrow was bad enough in real life. Why would I want to play it in a game? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I noticed that most of the uh, stuff I see in the U.S. had wheelbarrows, and I thought that's kind of weird. We don't have those here.
Yeah, it's great. Um, so in the actual heist, Matt points out to the video screen that Lavinia Wheatley is jumping over the fence and trying to break in. Um, Dr. Farragut orders the orderlies to help go to detain her. And while they're gone, Matt stops the recording, pulls out a tranquilizer dart gun, shoots Wilbur Whately, and takes him over to one of the sewer vents, and Sarah's there to go ahead and take the body down into the sewers and ultimately into the rats' tunnels. Um, he also asked for the bottle of ketchup, which we'll get to in just a second. Um, Dr. Farragut and the orderlies come back with Lavinia, and we get the next part of the plan, which is when Anton comes in. Um, Dr. Farragut shows up. Matt is covered in red blood ketchup, and says that old Whately has broken in and taken Wilbur and gone. Um, the video display is back on, and they see old Whately's truck flying out of the driveway. Something big is in the back of it, um, and it manages to get away just in time before the gate closes. As we see, it's actually Anton driving the truck, and with Daisy the cow in the back seat or in the back of the truck. Um, I really enjoyed this sequence. Was this hard
Hmm.
to put together? I mean, this is really an action sequence of what's going on here. Was it hard with the truck to make it look like it was, driving really fast?
Yeah, you really have to think of a composition wherein it would look really dynamic. And one of the things that I thought about was 70s 70s TV series
Yeah.
wherein you'd always see the car flying
Right.
from a worm's eye view, like
Uh-huh.
what were Dukes of Hazard
Yeah,
and
Hazard was
those kind of
fantastic. Yeah.
yeah, Knight Rider.
Uh-huh.
I love those scenes. So yeah, immediately that jumped out, and I thought, yeah, this would be great. And then the gate would just close behind it.
Yeah.
I thought that would make for a really powerful scene. And
Hmm.
then I think the more difficult aspect of this uh, issue was just trying to figure out the layout of the whole building and trying to match it up with the blueprint. I think
Yeah.
that one was the one that drove me crazy. But at the end of at the end of it, I think it was just like halls and corridors
Right.
anyway. So when you figure out one floor, you practically figure out the rest of the building.
Right.
But I think I had to change a few things from the initial blueprints because I hadn't realized that part of the hallway was like window part already.
Yeah.
And initially I thought it was like one area of rooms and another area of rooms
Hmm.
uh, in front of it, and so I had to change that. But it's
Hmm.
just a minor edit, and yeah, I really like this scene anyway. But um,
Yeah.
the last panel was really cute with the cow. I
Yeah.
think that really seals it. And naming it Daisy,
Daisy.
come
Yeah.
on.
Well, I figured Lavinia would probably name it, and Lavinia probably would absolutely name a cow Daisy. She's simple.
I
Um,
was mentioning Dukes of Hazard, and then we have a Daisy. Come
that's right,
on.
Daisy Duke. That's a good connection. Yeah. I love that you toiled over the blueprints. I just hope that somebody is going back to look at it to really see. Oh, they went along this corridor and then they went down here, and
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm pretty sure that they'll find inaccurate. What do you call this? That some parts of it are inaccurate, and I
yeah,
had to like fix it so that it matches some of the scenes. But who cares?
right. I do think it works. I don't think that people are going to notice. I think the important thing is that it feels like Matt, when he's revealing the outline of the plan, that it's clear that he knows where on the blueprints he is. And I think as long as that comes through, then I think
Mhm.
they'll go along with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then we get the next part of it, which is, and all that's left is for me to deal with Lavinia. So the plan was that he was going to take Lavinia and tell the doctor he was going to go find out, he's going to go torture her or whatever, interrogate her, whatever, and get exactly the details about where old Whately went and Wilbur went, and that they would get Wilbur back, and the doctor would be fine with that. As we mentioned before, with heists, something has to go wrong, and so this was the perfect place for something to go wrong. Um, Matt acts this out and says, you know, I'm going to take you, blah blah blah, all this. But Dr. Farragut isn't having this. He's like, before you go, Mr. Williams, I do have one question. How is it that Mr. Whately could have entered into this facility without us having seen him? And Matt is like, that's exactly what I'm going to find out. And Lavinia, being Lavinia, is like, did I do a good job? And Matt's like, not now. And then we have this really nice little piece about, Matt holding the top hat, and he's like, what could possibly go wrong? And this is exactly where everything falls apart. They checked the recording and found out that Matt turned it off. And decide, okay, you know what, we're gonna have to get to the bottom of this. And so Dr. Farragut decides to break out the truth serum, also, oh man, I can't remember what it's called, sodium pentothal, which is truth serum from historically, and decides to inject Matt to try and get him to go ahead and tell the truth. This is when our scarred man comes back. I really like how you're dealing with him. When we saw him before, he was much more sort of in shadow, in silhouette, and now we have to sort of see him, in the flesh. And how did he change as you came to have to draw him again?
Yeah, when we initially introduced him, we didn't really have much background about him. And then we fleshed him out later on when we decided that he was going to finally make an appearance in this issue.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like the idea that we came up with, which
We'll get to.
we'll get to it sometime. But I think that this guy represents everything that is wrong with Miskatonic.
Yeah.
You will see that he has scars
Mm-hmm.
and writing tattoos on
Mm-hmm.
his body. And what we'll find out is that these tattoos will represent something to do with eldritch
Mm-hmm.
magic. Is it protection? Is it something more sinister? We'll find out later on. But I wanted it to look very. I wanted him to look very different from what we're used to,
Mm-hmm.
like another side of Miskatonic High that we've never seen. I mean, we've seen the past characters like Daniel Arkham, and we've seen how they've dealt with um, Eldritch magic, just like Kerwin.
Yeah.
But we've never really seen the extent of it.
Right.
And this guy will represent that.
Right. We've seen the people who are in power, who are practicing eldritch magic. We haven't always seen the victims of it.
No, what I meant is most of the people that deal with Eldritch magic tend to hide it.
Yeah.
This guy is wearing it with pride.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Um, so he's there and he says that he has seen everything, that I saw it with my own little eye. And if you don't trust me, you can ask it yourself. And he holds out a button. Um, Dr. Farragut is like, you're not supposed to have buttons. And the scarred man says, well, the blonde girl offered to lend me her ears, but I took her eyes instead. And of course, it's the eyes from the doll that we saw Alex give to him way back in issue 17. Um, he then makes a motion as though he's choking on the other eye because he's only got one. Um, he gives him the Heimlich, um, and as he's sort of doubling over, we see that he has a key, which it took me a little bit to see that he had gotten the key off of Dr. Farragut, which I thought was really cool. Um, as Dr. Farragut turns back, he finds that Matt is gone. Um, they go look for him, but of course he's gone down in the sewers following Sarah. Um, and they take Wilbur to this sort of place in the rats' tunnels where they have a bed and some materials, and they can go ahead and sort of keep Wilbur for a while. Um, as they're bringing him, Matt doesn't sound quite right. Um, he's of course got the sodium pentothal, so he's sort of telling the truth, but also maybe a little bit drunk. Um, and telling the truth about how his mom tried to steal his body, and the elder thing is using him to get a body, and Lavinia's dad wants to kill his body, and the druids want to rob his house. Um, and just as he's sort of doing this, Anton asks him how much tranquilizer he gave to Wilbur because Wilbur's coming around, which he does, and he is not very happy. Um, let's talk a little bit about Wilbur and how Wilbur looks. So we had seen him just in that one scene in issue 17, and
Mhm.
even that was just behind the bars. How did you decide how Wilbur was going to look sort of in the flesh like this?
Yeah, if you look at the references, it varies
Mhm.
very from one source to another, but I always thought that he would look more humongous rather than gangly and thin,
Yeah.
although that also works. But
Sure.
I wanted him to be massive for this for the book.
Mhm.
Eh, when I initially drew him, he he was supposed to be much bigger than what we initially saw behind those bars.
Mhm.
And he also has this capacity to even look bigger
Mhm.
as he's as his rips out his clothing
Yeah.
and we see his full image. So yeah, I wanted it to be massive and really terrifying to look like. He had to have this sense of um, bigger than life personality. Like again, like we had the scarred man. It's something that the kids have never seen before.
Right.
Like it would have to be something like um, does this people like this actually exist?
Mhm.
And so the horrors of what lies beneath Miskatonic High is slowly coming to the fore, and it should really scare the kids
Yeah.
with the way that this has been revealed.
Yeah, I especially like once he does sort of rip it off that, up to this point, I mean, he could just be like a really big person, and when he rips off his clothes, it's clear that he is not just a person. Whatever he is something more than that. Um,
Yeah, that's the other thing is I wanted him to look inhuman
mhm,
because well those who are familiar with Lovecraftian mythos know that Wilbur is not exactly what he's supposed to be. He's
right.
more has a alien DNA in him or something.
Mhm.
So he has to look both very alien and monstrous at the same time.
Right. And he does. And I really like what you're doing with the color here as well, where he seems very blue and you've got these yellow sort of contrasts. It's just a nice contrast of colors between the two that you're playing off with him.
Yeah, when I initially shifted to this coloring style,
Hmm.
I still hadn't figured the palette that I wanted, especially for darker scenes like this.
Hmm.
I think it was only during this time that I figured out the palette that really kind of complemented what I really wanted for the
Hmm.
look of this book moving forward.
Hmm.
And so I adapted this look with future issues as well because I think it's really pleasing to the eyes.
Yeah, it really is. One of the things that we have going on is we've mentioned before that he doesn't smell right, and something about it is setting off Sarah, who's really giving into her rat thing persona and really attacking him pretty savagely, until he whacks her unconscious. Um, and just as things are about as bad as they can get, and it seems like Wilbur is going to bring the whole cave in on top of them. Lavinia tells him, it's not time for your brother. You know that. Um, Mama's gonna be, Matt's gonna be your new stepdaddy, so you can't kill him or his friends. And he's like, but mom, um, and she sort of calms him down. And while she's calming him down, um, the scarred man comes up from behind him and injects him with some more tranquilizer so that he falls unconscious. Um, and we find out that a little bit about the Scarred Man, that he has a hatred of the whole Arkham Society, and that he is going to sort of help Matt look after Wilbur because because he expects Matt to help him make the Arkham Society pay. Um, which Matt is just trying to stay one step ahead of the Arkham Society and not get killed, so he doesn't have a whole
Mhm.
lot of legs to stand on here. Um, Pretty soon we have Matt and Lavinia heading back towards the mansion where they're going to stay. Um, Sarah is whispering to Anton. Of course, they're living at Sarah's house right now, and Sarah's asking like, "Do you think Matt is going to be okay?" And Anton's like, "Oh hell no." Um, I think Anton has a good understanding that things are very, very bad for Matt right now. Um, as Matt and Lavinia are walking back to the mansion, um, Matt is being honest for the first time. Like, the sodium pentothal is making him be honest, and he's like, "Is that what you meant by your dad putting something inside you?" Um, and Lavinia's like, "Yeah, and why I'm supposed to, why I need to be leaving my schooling." And Matt, of course, went through something similar about his mom, Mary, or not really Mary, trying to put something inside of him and take over his body too. And what's wrong with these people? Like, these are supposed to be the parents. They're supposed to be looking out for their children, and instead, they're using their children as tools to further themselves. With Lavinia to create Wilbur and his brother, and with Matt to have a new body to occupy. Um, and Lavinia puts it that, when Wilbur was born, she saw this weak little thing that needed extra helping and keeping safe, and that she's the mama now. And that's exactly what she's going to do. So it's kind of like, they're complaining about their parents. And in a way, Lavinia's like, well, doing the best that she can to be a better parent. It's all messed up, but she's just doing the
Mhm.
best she can. Um, and Matt is like, well, you're a very good cow, Lavinia. Um, and they head off.
Yeah, and that kind of really nails the idea that Wilbur is has very different DNA. Is the
Hmm.
fact that if he was born from Lavinia,
Hmm.
he would have grown twice or thrice as fast as a normal human being would. I mean, if if we follow the usual birth cycle and growth of a child, Wilbur would still be like a little kid right now,
Right.
but he's massive. He looks very adult at this point.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that's part of the mystery.
Right. I also think it's part of the horror that we've sort of established in Miskatonic High, which is that, these kids, Lavinia included, are doing the best that they can, and they're just surrounded by all this horror that's going on between people who, their parents and the people in the town who are supposed to be responsible. And really, they're just doing the best they can to survive in this, and they're not doing very well.
Yeah, it's not very surprising to see that the person who's been abused the most has the most uh, right perspective for it.
Yeah.
Eh, and it kind of awakens Matt
Hmm.
to the fact that despite all his problems, you kids still keep a straight head on you and
Yeah.
try to figure the things out.
Yeah. And we had talked about, that it would be fun to have Matt and Lavinia put together. And at first, you would think that they wouldn't have anything in common. And by the end of this issue, we're like, yeah, they both have a lot of things in common. You can see how things, how they work together.
Yeah, and they could learn from each other as well,
Yeah. Yeah. I think.
despite all of that.
Yeah. So they head back to the mansion. They find Daisy out on the front lawn eating the grass. Um, Lavinia says that Anton said he left Daisy with Christian, Matt's dad. And Matt's like, my dad wouldn't leave a cow out here. They go in the mansion. They find things a mess, but also like really kind of empty. Things have been taken away. Um, there's footprints all over. And when they get to Christian's room, there's blood on the ground. Um, and there's a note that says, if you want your dad, you best bring me my boy. And we know exactly who wants his boy. Um, we know that old Wheatley's been there and that old Wheatley has taken Matt's dad. Um, and that's where we leave the issue. Just when we think that Matt's one step ahead, he's not.
No,
No.
not at all.
Yeah.
It just gets worse and worse from here on.
It really does.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, just looking forward to the future issues. I don't think anybody has any idea of how much worse things are going to get.
right.
And that's why I asked you before how you read your comics when you were a kid, because I would always look at the last page of the comic book to see, is there still future issues for this?
Yeah, I mean, if you read the last page on this one, there's future issues, but man, they don't look good. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
not
Ugh,
at all.
yeah. Um, I really like the addition of Lavinia. I think she's a nice addition to our thing. I really like the scarred man. I think he brings an interesting uh point of view to him. I really like Wilbur. I think he is very cool. I like, he looks great, he's powerful, and he is insane. It's like he's just dangerous.
Yeah, we didn't really we only had a glimpse of him in past issue,
Mhm.
And already at that time, you knew that he was going to be trouble.
Right.
And it's only now that we see just the extent of that.
Hmm. Right. And I think it's funny because we sort of included him as a cameo in issue 17, and we didn't
Mhm.
really know exactly what we were going to do. And it was through talking about it and what we had seen there, and where we were going, how we could bring them into the story, and really make a whole story around them. And it really,
Yeah, initially we just had the silhouettes of the Arkham Society. So even up to now, we still don't know the identities of those people
right.
that rarely get their names printed on newspapers or get interviewed or whatever. We don't know who they are. They could be our neighbors,
Hmm.
for all we know.
Right. Right. And it took Matt getting to this place to know that Arkham Society even existed. Like most people have no idea that there's this society out there doing all this. They're just living their lives, sort of like at the beginning of the series. Just they thought they lived in a normal town, and it turns out it's not so normal.
Yeah, and I kind of like that we took the time to slowly reveal that
Hmm.
instead of just pouring it all in the very first season. The progression really works out with the slow introduction of different characters, that
Yeah.
it makes it even more interesting as they appear, because just when you think things are settling down, this kind of twist makes it more interesting going forward. It makes it more intriguing.
Hmm. Right. And there, we've talked about this some, about how as we've gotten further along, things are becoming a lot more dangerous, but also the
Mhm.
kids are getting more able to deal with it. So the danger has to go up another level to really,
Yeah,
yeah, make it harder for them. Um, so yeah. Um,
yeah, because at this point they always think that they can get on top of things,
mhm,
and that it still holds true to the pitch that we had, at which is worse, high school or the monsters they've been meeting
mhm,
and encountering, but they have no idea at all
right. You
of
know,
how much worse the outside world is, and
mhm,
what secrets they haven't even that hasn't even been revealed yet.
right. Yep. Speaking of things that haven't been revealed yet, so after this issue, we have another issue getting ready to launch in maybe a week or so. That issue, as we sort of touched on a little bit, will be Ren, Collis, and Loon in the Stygian Tower. Um,
Mhm.
I think that's another good, solid issue. It's kind of a nice mix of the Conan style storytelling, but also with some Lovecraftian elements.
Yeah,
We're moving along Ren's story, and yeah, I don't want to reveal too much, but I think it's a really good story.
yeah, yeah. Some people might think, what does the Hyborian adventure have to do with Miskatonic High?
Hmm.
And I think if you've been following the story, I think uh, it will make sense once we put it all together.
Hmm.
This is like the inner meta of the story. It's like the history goes way, 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 way back than what we initially think.
Hmm.
So the whole Miskatonic conspiracy has been in the making for, like the dialogue mentioned, probably more than 10,000 years.
Hmm. I also think it's just fun, to a series that's been now 28 issues. You know, you don't want to do the same thing over and over and over again. You need to
Mhm.
do different things and taking it in new ways and take some risks. And I
Yeah,
really, I really enjoy. I've always enjoyed Conan comics. I think they're really cool. I
yeah,
think they're
me
fun
too.
storytelling, and it's really fun to be able to do that kind of storytelling, but also to put a little bit of a Miskatonic High twist on it.
Yeah, and if we were going to tell a story about the ancient past, why not make it more interesting
Hmm.
and have a mixture of Conan in it as well, right?
Right,
Instead of just straight out story about Atlantis.
right. And again, going back to the idea of uh, Howard and Lovecraft were friends, and Howard would borrow some of
Yeah,
Lovecraftian's,
correct.
yeah, in it. So it's nice to see those connections. I really enjoy it. I hope that people who are reading the series isn't enjoyed those mixes as well as much as I do.
Yeah, it just shows that one of our inspiration in this comic book series is the pulps.
Yep.
And yeah, it's very evident with these stories that we visit once in a while.
Hmm. Exactly. So we will be launching that in the next couple of weeks. So for listeners of this, they should be looking out to Kickstarter. Go ahead and we will be sharing that information a lot as
Yeah.
we lead up to it. So make sure that you're liking that and getting ready for that. Um, that is all I have. Anything else you got, Ryan?
Mm, none for me.
All
I'm just preparing for the next issue.
right. Yeah, you and me both. Um, Yep. So we will get back to work on that. And yeah, just want to say thank you for reading this issue. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we had fun writing it and making it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Goodbye, guys.
Thank you.